everything.
Okay. So I'd like to start with an introduction of who I am. Some of you may not have met me. My name is Richard Magu. I work with Gebeya. I lead the product management element that is called GMID, where we basically assist organizations to put together products, software products mostly, that enable them to achieve their vision as an organization or as entrepreneurs or startups. Um, so we've been doing this for a while. We have some success stories, and we've created a webinar series where we would like to share these success stories. The prior webinar was with a customer of ours who's building the mChudo product. Today we have the fortunate opportunity to have the person doing the actual building of that particular product. So this is Frank from a partner called Accede, who will then be telling us about this experience and other experience that we are undergoing together with them in creating a portfolio of products. We can have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar where you feel free to ask any questions. I'll also drop my contact details on the chat. So in case you want to drop me an email or schedule a short conversation, you should be able to do that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Frank from Accede. He can tell us a bit about himself and Accede, and then we can then get into the meat and potatoes of the webinar today. Over to you, Frank.
Okay, thanks for the introduction, Richard. Okay, so my name is Frank Odoom. I'm from Ghana, and I have a company called Accede that builds software, bespoke software for clients. A bit about myself. I'm a software engineer, and I've been building software for at least close to 10 years. And currently, I lead a team of brilliant engineers that deliver the products that I will be talking about. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, and I also engage in a lot of community and open source projects as well. So that's a bit about myself. And usually my day-to-day activity basically is just to interact with clients and help them transform all their requirements into either software or automation at the end of the day. So as I said, I do this closely with my team. I don't work alone. I have a team of engineers that I work with. And I mean, what I do is I collaborate with them and make sure that at the end of the day, we have a product that can stand the test of time. So with my company Accede, what we basically do is deliver bespoke software projects. We are also into software outsourcing development and cloud solutions as well. We are more of a consulting firm. The reason why we like to see ourselves as a consulting firm is we like to work closely with founders like you to really understand what you want and make sure that at the end of the day, we're able to deliver the product that is required of us or the product that you want. So we usually have a face-to-face approach in our delivery. We make sure that anytime you're working on a project with a client, we make sure the client is in the loop. We use agile methodologies as well, just to make sure that at every iteration we have a call with the client to see what that end product of that iteration looks like. If we have to cycle back and make some changes, we do as well. So this is, I mean, one of the approaches we take to software development that has actually seen us being successful. Yeah.
Thank you, Frank. Maybe on a side note, I recall when we were planning for this webinar, we said this is Accede Ghana, and you corrected me that it's not just Ghana. Maybe you could talk a bit about the growth you've seen also beyond just Ghana into, I know you're in another African country, just to let our listenership and the people on the webinar in on that.
Okay. So we currently have an office in Nigeria as well. So we are not only in Ghana, we're also present in Nigeria as well. We trying to make sure that we have we have an able engineering team to deliver the projects that we get from our clients. So we are in both markets. Nigeria has a good talent base as well as Ghana. And we're trying to tap into both markets to make sure that we have a strong engineering force to, deliver whatever project that needs to be delivered. And as part of being as being part of this Gebeya partner program, this is one of the reasons why we are even, expanding and growing. So, yeah, we are growing steadily, as we join the network as well.
Thank you. So a bit of some growth. I'm happy to have engaged with some of the team members from the Nigeria office. Really engaging people. I like that. Now to get into more or less the crux of it too. So we're going to talk about a product portfolio and just a few stories on how we've done that, especially with Accede as a partner. Maybe you could guide me here, Frank, as we talk about some of the projects you've undertaken. Maybe you could start with Mchudo just to because it looks like the most vibrant one based on the past discussion we had with Jasper and on it. What are your takes on that particular project, and where do you think it's going? Because I have a little bird that's whispered to me that it's actually growing in terms of delivery scope.
Okay, so with Mchudo, Mchudo is a mobile wallet solution that we're building for a customer called Jasper, and so far we're done with phase one. It's a mobile wallet that has an admin backend. So some of the services on the mobile wallet, it allows users to purchase airtime, pay for bills, and also top up with the M-Pesa and other, payment platforms. And currently we're done with that phase. We're on phase two, where we are integrating with some edu partners at the moment. So we've successfully worked with phase one, and we're on phase two now. So phase two basically is an integration, and we're expecting more integrations, to come our way as well. So we are currently working with the clients' partners who are partner banks to successfully deliver that edu integration. And Mchudo has an admin backend which allows the Mchudo, which manages all the Mchudo operations. So things like an admin is able to approve loans. When an Mchudo user applies for a loan, an admin is able to approve the loans. They are able to see the volumes of transactions, they're able to see their users, and they have a whole backend to manage the entire application.
Maybe I could inquire a bit more about that backend, because it looks like it was deliberate, the way it was structured and architected to facilitate this kind of growth of the product. Maybe you could talk a bit more about that and what the thinking was, and even probably hint at some of the tips that those who are willing or thinking about undertaking a wallet project could think about.
Okay, so the entire backend of Mchudo actually has been built to scale as a microservice architecture, because looking at the volumes of transaction we are expecting, we had to go with the microservice architecture. So every service has its own database and has its own resources, and it's built to scale because when the transactions keep increasing, the backend is intelligent to scale to meet the transactions, because we wouldn't want issues where would be resource constraints because of lots of transactions on the platform, And as fintech apps are widely used now in Africa, everybody wants comfort. So once products like this come out, you usually have a lot of people jumping on. So for the back end, it's built to scale. We went to the microservice architecture so that we don't have scaling issues. And also another thing is we have a lot of login systems in place because we are integrated with a lot of third parties. In case there's a transaction and it doesn't happen successfully on the other side, the backend is able to see said transactions, and the admins can do certain things like reversals if there needs to be. So we actually work closely with the client, put together most of all these thoughts, and as an engineering team, we help put all this together to make sure that the backend of the application is very solid.
Great. Microservices, most people talk about that as an architecture, and it sends shivers down some spines because it seems to be a new technology and not many people are aware of it. Maybe could shed a bit of light from a business perspective, not because not everyone here may be technical, on the advantages of that kind of an approach.
Okay, so as a founder, you want to deliver services, and you want to target like a very big market. The bigger the market you have, the more transactions you get, the more money you make. Now, your infrastructure should be designed in such a way that it can support that market. If, let's say, you are to launch your product in one of the big countries, or even across 3 countries in West Africa, or in Africa, sorry, in general, you are looking at having a lot of transactions at a time. And some of these transactions need to be served within seconds. So to make that possible, we need to go with the microservice approach, which is widely used among most of the very big companies like Netflix and Microsoft and Google's and everything. We realize that if you want to produce a product on a very large scale or a global scale, or even on a country scale, you will need to have a robust backend that can serve these requests. Because let's say it's an e-commerce website you launch and it becomes very popular and people go in and they want to buy stuff. If somebody goes in and he clicks buy and he's not able to buy, it might just put the person off and you might lose a customer. So there's a statistics on Amazon. Amazon is very highly focused on their microservice architecture, because anytime their pages are slow or their requests are slow, they can lose a lot of millions of dollars in just a few seconds, right? So this is what has actually spun up the idea of building backends in microservices, all because you want to target big markets. You want your solution to be able to scale. In the beginning, it might look a bit, I wouldn't say costly. It depends. So what we actually do is we have certain configurations for microservices that we can implement so that it doesn't look so costly in your MVP stage. But the good news is, once you get out of MVP stage, we just need to increase, let's say, what we call the replicas. So let's say if you have a cart service can have 20 instances. So what it means is if somebody tries to go to a cart to buy something, and let's say that particular service is overloaded, it automatically can create another one to serve other customers. So for microservices, it's a very good approach, especially for founders who are looking to build very scalable solutions that will attract like investments and all that, because we realize that investors do want traction. And if you are able to target big markets, that can also be good. And the microservice is always the best way to go for such products.
Okay, thank you about that. So what I've taken away from that is, if you're building to scale, then it's good to put down the rails being the microservice architecture. So your MVP from the get-go has that in place. So if you hit the crazy numbers that you're hoping to get, it's it's not, doesn't become a technology issue. It's literally just enables you to achieve that. I'm seeing a lot of people on the webinar from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So maybe you could talk a bit more about a project you undertook there in the education technology space that actually would affect them and the future generations in a way that they may be able to appreciate.
Okay. So we worked on a very interesting project called Tenacity, and it's an edutech. It was an edutech project, and basically what we had to do was to provide a solution for transforming a textbook into a very interactive and media-friendly textbook. So basically what we did was to take some English textbooks and put them in a digital format where students can actually, go through quizzes, answer them in a very interactive way, get answers right on the go. They can, we also have dictionaries inside the textbook where a student can click on a word and they can actually get the meaning right away. They can listen to the pronunciation, and they also have certain videos on certain sections that they can actually watch. So it's a very interesting project. It's a project I'm personally passionate about because it's also under education, and I think it's going to offer a very new experience, to learning. And yeah, it was an awesome project. So we successfully delivered book 10, and we are currently working on another book for Tenacity. They were very pleased about the first outcome, and they gave us another go on another book. So yeah, that was a very nice project as well.
I'm also particularly fond of it and my role in it because when it first came to my desk, I thought this is really going to change things around, because the book is actually an English book. So schools in rural Ethiopia, students from rural Ethiopia are able to learn English using this approach. So the impact is going to be massive. I'm really proud about it. Switching gears to more West African, there's a project you're about to conclude on the legal space. Maybe you could talk a bit more about it and what the learnings are from that.
Okay. So there's another project we are just about handing over, which is called Legal Connect. Legal Connect it's a very interesting project. It's an on-demand market space for lawyers and clients. So if you need any legal advice, you can just go onto the platform. You can book a session with a lawyer. You pay for the session. Depending on the package that you pay for, you have access to either video calls or chats, instant message chat, or just audio calls. So we have all the communication platforms in there. And one of the interesting thing about that project is it's also a working space for a lawyer. So if you're a legal practitioner, you can just log onto the platform and just work from there. You don't even need to log out. You have everything there. You have access to create documents. You have access to share documents with your customer. You can request for signatures for documents. Customers can submit signatures. When a client books you, you get a notification that you've been booked. And 15 minutes to time, you get another notification you need to join a call with your customer. Depending on the package a customer picked, the application automatically routes you to the right mode of communication. So if the customer picked a basic project, a basic package where they get to only chat with you, we are routed into the chat session where you can just have an instant messaging conversation. The client can upload certain documents, probably they want you to review, etc. Legal Connect has a lot of services. I think if it's launched, will be a game changer. There are a lot of services from real estate, even for founders. So let's say you're starting your new startup and you need some legal advice on probably how to maybe set up your contracts with your partners and stuff like that. You can just go in there, a bunch of services there. You just pick the particular service you want, and you're connected to a lawyer. You book the lawyer, you get in touch with the lawyer, and the lawyer can help you, with those documents. And one other interesting feature for Legal Connect is Legal Connect platform itself has templates for lawyers. So as a legal practitioner, once you get onto the platform, you don't need to worry about, now creating documents from scratch. The platform has so many templates by categorized in different areas, right? So as a legal practitioner, you can just go, if let's say you want documents for startups, you just click on startups. You get so many templates for startups. You can pick and copy one template, and you can edit that template quickly, and you can send that template to a client and execute your business very, very, very quickly. So I think it's going to be a good game changer in our part of the world, and we are hoping to see it fly to the highest heights.
Thanks for that, Frank. I think the theme of this particular webinar was also with regards to our project portfolio, and I think a lot of people may be asking themselves, okay, these are distributed projects with different people. Maybe just to get a common understanding is that it's possible with a reliable engineering team to actually have several products under one docket. So your organization, or as a startup or as an entrepreneur, whatever ideas you can come up with, you can actually if you get the right engineering team behind you, they can help you actualize this. And I think what Frank is basically illustrating is that they're not just a one-trick pony. They just do one type of solutions. They're able to do a diverse set of solutions. And it is possible for even one startup founder or an organization to have a diverse portfolio of products that they can then be able to put to the market. And all we need is just a reliable engineering team to actualize that vision. Okay, going back into the diversity, Frank, there's a particular project you're about to finalize that would help in addressing a challenge in software, which has to do with bugs. Maybe you could talk about a bit more about that.
Okay, so there's another product also about finalizing called Bug Bounty Box. And what Bug Bounty Box does is it's also an on-demand platform where we have organizations listing so let's say you have an organization, you've built a product, or let's say even a founder, you have a product and you want the product to be tested for vulnerabilities. All you need to do is go to Bug Bounty Box, list your project, and you have a lot of ethical hackers on the platform who can come over, take a look at your project, and they can actually submit vulnerabilities. And they are paid. They are paid by the company behind Bug Bounty Box at the end of the day, because they are a security company. So they actually assess all the vulnerabilities that the hackers have provided. They vet them, and I mean, once those vulnerabilities are actually true vulnerabilities, they are. I mean, they pay the hackers. So it's a platform where, I mean, the security is a very big issue. When as a founder, when you start a project and you have a lot of people on your platforms, you might want to probably have another security assessment. Bug Bounty Box is a very good product. You can just go on, list your product, put in your domain. So if it was a website or an API, just put in your domain and create a bounty. So you create a bounty, and we have the platform has hackers that come on based on their level. So if you list a project, that needs a high level vulnerability testing, the platform actually associates your project with hackers that are in that category, so that it gives you the right people to test your product. So it's a very interesting project, and I mean, it's backed by a security company. So yeah, I mean, rest assured that at the end of the day, whatever vulnerabilities the hackers are submitting is going to be vetted And once it's vetted, that is when they actually get paid for it. And your vulnerability report is submitted to you. Then you can go back with your engineering team and say, okay, this is what the vulnerabilities we found on our project. Can you work on this? So basically, that's what Bug Bounty Box does. And that's also soon to be launched. And we can't wait for it to get out there.
Yeah, so it will soon pay to be a hacker. You can actually make a living out of hacking.
Yeah.
Another thing I think which we espouse here as the spirit in Gebeya especially is if more and more of these products can actually get created, that would be awesome for Africa. Imagine if a lot of Africans can actually gainfully find employment by finding vulnerabilities in software, and you don't need to be very astute as a technical person. It's just a question of usability. So with the creation of such products, it creates value, and also for Africa, we're able to create gainful employment. So thanks, Frank. I want to switch into how we get to a project to Frank's docket. Before we get Frank and his team to basically engage, there is a process that we undergo called a GMID approach. I want to talk a bit about that. And then we can then move into the next section where we can allow you to ask questions in case you have something that's burning. If you'd like me, I'd just like to share a particular slide if you don't mind. Okay, I hope everyone can see the shared screen. So we've distilled an approach here at Gebeya called the GMID approach, which basically tries to help us ensure that we can successfully embark on a project, because we realize a lot of work needs to go into preparing the project before the engineering team or our partners like Frank and Accede are able to take on the project and then be able to deliver it effectively. So we front load it if we can use that term, with a lot of engagement, so as to avoid a lot of problems when it comes to delivery and any mismatch of expectations. So it's a three-step process where we basically initially work with the customer to understand what their product vision is. I think you've picked up from what Frank has said. He understands extremely well what you're trying to do and what it will do into the future. And it's important for the partners that we work with who actually participate in the build of the software to get a very good idea what the product vision is, because they can then inform very technical architectural decisions and even have very meaningful conversations about where the product can go and in what directions they can support the build with. So that's the first stage. We try to understand your product vision. We're not just consumers of your ideas. We critique them, we refine them. And the idea is that we're able to then identify an increment that is a possible rollout for you as a startup or as an individual, as an organization. And then once we've identified what you want to do in terms of the product vision, we work with our partners like Accede. I can see some people from another partner organization on the call as well. And we basically try and leverage this network of partners to find the best possible partner to work with to deliver that solution. So Accede is just one of the partners we have. We have more than 10 of them on our network so far, and we're growing. And we get the best proposal in terms of delivery approach, cost, and value to you. And you are involved in that particular process where we basically review this particular proposal and refine it even further. I think Frank can attest to several conversations even before we even contract, where the client would like to understand better the delivery approach and a refinement of what needs to be done, so that the proposal speaks into what the project is going to be. And then from that stage, we're able to then curate a project. And with that project, we're able to identify the teaming, like the partner on, for example, Frank's side, you'd be able to identify who from his team is able to get engaged with the project. On our end, we're able to then identify what resources as Gebeya we can support with, and then come up with the project parameters, which are the typical scope, the schedule, and then come up with the initial business increment for the roadmap. The rest is contracting, and then we kick off the project and then move on to that. So far, this has worked quite successfully for us, and we've been able to get a lot of people off the ground with this approach, to the extent that we are then moving on to secondary increments where the initial project has ended, and people are actually coming to us with the next 2 or 3 steps, as you had with Mchudo, where they would like to augment the product. But we've deliberately thought about what the next 2 or 3 steps are, and we're able to quickly move on to those scenarios. Okay, so we are a bit ahead of schedule. I'd like to open it up for questions and answers, if there are any. Some people are joining at this stage anyway, so any questions that you may have for me or Frank that we can field? Welcome those. Maybe if there are no questions for me, I could ask a couple of questions from the audience.
I joined lately, so I just received an email and I'm joining using that link. Can I ask what the purpose of this meeting? If I heard projects that Frank is doing, but I don't get the full picture. That's why.
Maybe I could ask your context. Are you thinking of undertaking a software project anytime soon in your organization or as an individual?
Sure. Yeah. Currently, I'm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you're in the right place, because what we're basically showcasing is that it is possible to do that without having to hire 10 developers and incur that overhead cost. You could work with Gebeya and their partners to help you build your minimum viable product, the next increments. And if you have 10 product ideas, that's still not an issue. We're able to work on all your 10 product ideas concurrently, depending on whether you want to do them at that pace or one after the other. So you're able to, as an organization or as an individual, build a portfolio of products without having to incur very heavy overhead in terms of staffing and engineering requirements. I hope that clarifies the objective of the call or the meeting.
Okay, does that mean some kind of incubation center, or?
No, it's not an incubator, because, well, typically what an incubator would do is try and help you meet people you could work with to achieve your product vision. So in that regard, we're kind of similar, but as Gebeya as a marketplace, we're able to help you meet people like Frank. So Frank is a partner of Gebeya who's able to then help you put together your product vision.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, thank you for that question. Any other questions?
Richard.
Okay, go ahead, Brian, then we'll take Enoch's question.
Okay, so I had a question on identifying an effective product strategy or a roadmap. So, okay, from the GMED, what are some of the ways that you kind of take through the client through to identify an effective product strategy and the roadmap for a particular solution or an idea?
Thank you for that question, Brian. Very good question. So, as I said, we front load the conversations. We have a lot of discussions. I do that quite a bit myself, where you come to us and tell us, okay, I want to do A, B, C, and D. Now, based on our experience from projects we've done with Accede and other partners, we're able to then have a very meaningful conversation, which is we try and ask you certain questions. Even some are very difficult. Are you targeting a specific market? Why are you targeting the market? Do you have a good product market fit? What are the assumptions that you're making? The idea is to help you refine your idea to a state where you're able to then, when we do embark on a proposal, everyone is very well, you understand what you want to achieve, and you can actually get the right people to do the right job for you. And that's how, as the GMED approach, we're trying to help you succeed. And that makes it much easier even for the likes of Frank and the partners to then be able to get a very focused idea of what they need to do for you to help you achieve your project vision. I hope we've answered the question, Brian.
Yes, you have. Thank you.
So Gero, excuse me if I don't pronounce it very well, Gasum. There's a question from Enoch I wanted to take before we get to yours, and I think this is directed at Frank because he's in charge of a tech company. What's the most challenging time you faced as a tech company? How did you come up to handle it, Frank? If you could take that question from Enoch.
Yeah, okay, so I mean, some of the challenges as a tech company, well, in the region that we are at now, one of the challenges is getting, getting access to like projects, like good projects. So this is why we actually partner with Gebeya, and that's one of the things Gebeya is doing for us. So we don't actually need to worry about, you know, where our next project is coming from. As part of our Gebeya's partner network, I mean, we always have a lot of proposals we go through. I mean, with Richard all the time to, you know, get our next project. So one of the challenges before, which was being a tech, having a tech company, is, you know, getting like good projects. And the way that has been handled now is, you know, having a good partner like Gebeya, which, you know, so I mean, before you would have to like be marketing for projects, or, you know, trying to work around getting your next project. But being part of this partner network, I mean, that's no longer a challenge for us. So that is one. And secondly, I would say when you have a project and you are working on the project, one of the challenges on projects actually is, you know, you need to, I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but one of the things you need to do as a tech company is really understand the product itself, the product you are building, and always make sure that you are in touch with the customer. We are working now in a virtual world where, you know, we are all in different places. We need to collaborate, you know, through the internet or through instant messaging and stuff like that. So some of the initial challenges might probably be communication if, you know, networks are not good and all that, but usually there are so many alternatives we have. We usually use either email, Slack, or any medium of your choice that, I mean, suits you, rather than just, you know, having just one communication channel. So in case one doesn't work, we always have alternatives that we can use to still work. So, I mean, these are some of the, probably just touch on these two.
Okay, thanks for that, Frank. Maybe Gasum, you could ask your question now, then I'll deal with Brian and Iwat's question after that.
Okay, I think I'm audible.
Yes, I can hear you. Go on.
Okay, so thanks, Frank and Short, for this good session. But the concern that the concern that I have been struggling with is related to the fundraising thing. For example, I have a company that I am running on right now, and we are about to launch our product, which is called Kamasa. So, but the main challenge is the feasibility, and the entire thing is fine, and the market is actually open for our product. Everything is safe, but the problem is we couldn't escape from the MVP part because our product especially needs I mean, the profit and the entire thing is going to be more visible when it comes to the bigger scale. But right now, to prove that to other investors and related things, when we do this thing in a small scale for the purpose of MVP, we are having hard time. I mean, uh, the profit is not that much visible, or the traction is not that much visible when it goes to the smaller scale. So I think that is the main challenge for us to make it more visible in the larger scale or market. So what do you suggest, since you are working in different projects and different products I've heard so far? So what is your comments on it? And what do you think could help us a lot in order to skip from this MVP stage?
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. You'll guide me on whether I'm answering the right question. I think the question that begs a question a lot of people ask is, do we have the right product market fit? The answer is normally you don't have 100% knowledge of this, and the market will always surprise you. I think even Frank can attest to that. You put out a product thinking it's going to be used in a certain way. You find certain elements are being overused, and other elements you thought would be popular are not. So one of the things, and maybe Frank can talk a bit more about this, is that I really encourage is thinking around, and this has to go into measurement, something called telemetry, where you're able to then think about how we're going to measure success in the usability of a particular feature. Is it the number of transactions, the number of downloads? Is it the number of interactions? And then the difficult question is, if we don't hit a specific threshold number, how do we pivot? Which means you need to have thought about, if there's a pivot, in what direction could you pivot? And the pivots could go in several directions. Then think about those as business increments. And then ask yourself, how do we quickly pivot into this business increment at the lowest cost, lowest time? Why? Because an MVP would help you in discovery. And then after you've made the discovery, you don't spend too much time belaboring that particular point. You're able to quickly make some adjustments. And this is where actually a good engineering team can help, because they can help in creating the product in such a way that it's very easy for you to make the pivots. So what people would see in the market, if let's say you've launched an application, it's in the Play Store, is that there's an update. They install the update and they see certain functionality that they probably was being utilized a bit more, and the product starts moving in that direction. But all this behind the scene is driven by data that you're getting off the system using telemetry, and then you're able to then make informed decisions that are cost effective. Frank, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, so yeah, that's basically what you've said. So from the engineering perspective, getting telemetry from your application will show you the user patterns. So there are instances where you see that users use certain features more than the others, right? Then you can tell, okay, probably there is something, we need to work around this particular feature. So one thing we also need to know is that an MVP is more like you are testing your product in the market. So there's a time that you should be open to a lot of telemetry from your application. You need to make sure you have the various analytics in place so that you can see how users are actually interacting with the application. Then you can make certain informed decisions and move on from there. So yeah, I think it's the same idea also had in plan.
Okay, thanks, Frank.
Thank
I
you.
hope we answered the question, Gasum.
But you're right. But yeah, you answered somehow, but some part of it, like 90% or something. But my other part is, my concern is, um, like the main problem in our part is our maybe capital or the fund we have right now with seed capital or something like that. But we try to verify it like this. Our application, our entire thing, our product actually is working fine in this MVP part. But the main problem is actually the funding thing. So how do we reach the other people? So other the investors and other things to skip from this smaller scale. So the main thing is this, like we tested it, the productivity, the feasibility, the entire matrices, and it's working fine on the MVP stage. But the main problem for us is, I think, the funding and fundraising, because Frank told me, Frank was raising some issue, like they are working in different parts, like they are approaching different clients and blah, blah. So how do we push this thing to the next step? That's my maybe main question, in case you get my point.
Thank you. It's a scaling question, which is basically we got the MVP right.
Yes.
Then how do we scale this
Yeah.
to a broader market?
Yes.
I think this is a conversation we need to have separately after this call. I'll share with you my links, my email address. Maybe we could schedule a call and then share some ideas, if you don't mind.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. So just to move on to the other questions, we have the other Brian. There's Brian Churchill. There's another Brian who asks, how can one engage in those projects mentioned if one is interested? Brian, maybe you could speak up. I have a follow-on question to this. Does this mean you want to help in the development, or you want someone to undertake development for you, a product development for you? Is Brian with us? Okay, maybe you could type the answer on chat if, in case you're not able to speak because of background noise, not a problem. I'll move on to Ewat's question. I hope I've pronounced his name well. Forgive me if I have not. What kind of approach do you take with early stage startups that need a lot of iterations? Very good, valid question. So it's good that you recognize that you need a lot of iterations. I think the term MVP has been brought up, which is not take for granted, everyone knows this, which is a minimum viable product, which is the first iteration that you come up with just to test your idea and make sure that you're in the right direction. Now, what happens is the approach we take, especially with Gebeya, is we break everything down into what I call minimum business increments. Now, it's a build on the minimum viable product, but you could say, if you were to think of it as a ladder, it's the next step you take on the ladder, which is comfortable for everyone, yourself, the market, the engineering team, so that you're confident as you climb the ladder, you're taking steps that you're comfortable with. So what we try and do is break down the product vision or the product roadmap into what are called minimum business increments. I think Mchudo is a very good example of a client doing that. They've done the base product with its very good architecture, and then they've come up with a small snippet that's the next rung in the ladder that they will take, and then there's another rung after that. I'm privy to those discussions, and the idea is that you don't achieve the entire product vision at one go, big bang, and then you're confidently able to pick the rungs that you want to take as you move along. So I hope, Ewat, we've answered your question. You could speak up if you can, if you have a follow-on comment on that.
Hi.
Yes, go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty clear. Maybe the problem I'm currently having is, I think it's very similar to what Gerson is saying. So we kind of did test the market, not with a tech product, but with some other means, and have validated the base idea, the business model. But now when we started building the MVP, we are kind of going to pivot to to some other markets, not specifically very different from the market we had now, but we would probably pivot, and that will change the product like in a lot of ways. So I don't know how to approach. So do I just release the first MVP and then see the response and then fully change it on the next one, or do I just build on top of it? So that kind of got me confused.
Okay. Again, to understand your context, we may probably need to have a separate discussion. I don't know if you mind that.
I would be glad.
We may not be able to answer. Okay. I'll share my contact details at the end.
Okay.
Any other questions, Brian? Any feedback on what we spoke about? The question I asked. Okay, go ahead and reply on chat. How would you like to engage on the projects? Is it to have something developed, a product developed for you, or is it that you'd want to participate in the product development? Okay. I'll pick this up with you later because there are two ways you could participate. Could be a talent as an individual on the marketplace, or you could join as a network partner like Frank and his team did. That way then we're able to, after a rigorous vetting process, I think Frank can tell you what they went through. After a rigorous vetting process, you then are available to take on projects, and you pick the projects you take. As soon as they get to Gebeya's docket, we share them with our partners, and they basically respond to the proposals they feel they're capable of undertaking. So that's how you would participate. Okay, any other questions? Okay, at least you've downloaded the Gebeya app. Good. That's a very good first step. Any other questions? Okay, we have 5 minutes. Feel free to ask anything. Okay, so I'll share my email contacts, which is my email address. You can drop me an email. Let me know what you, especially what Gersum. We can then schedule a follow-on conversation about your product and the product vision and see what we can do to help. But if there are no further questions, then we'll end a bit early. Can give you 4 minutes back into your lives. And thank everyone, starting with Frank, for making time to come for this webinar, and everyone who was able to attend, for actually sparing time from your busy schedules to participate in this particular webinar. It's part of a series, so there should be one in about 4 to 6 weeks, where we'll dig deeper into the GMAID approach. I will be doing most of the talking at that point in time, and I look forward to seeing most of you back. Please feel free to tell people within your networks about what we do at Gebeya. If you have any questions, I have my email. You can quickly drop one to me. I'll answer as quickly as I can. And once again, thank you for making time to join us on the webinar. You can leave at your leisure, and thanks once again.